Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Gabby and welcome. If you are interested in true crime content, especially true crime cases that are 20 years or older, you might want to subscribe to my channel and maybe possibly turn on the bell notifications to be notified every time that I upload. Today I am doing another Vintage and Vanished video. If you are new to my channel, you don't know what that is. Vintage and Vanished is a series on my channel where I cover missing persons cases of people who have mysteriously vanished. All of the cases are vintage 20 years or older. When it comes to vintage cases that are decades old, sometimes it is very hard to find a lot of information about these cases online. And a lot of times I have to contact family directly. Well, today's video is going to be a compilation video. It is going to be on a lot of different missing persons cases, and all of these cases have very limited information on them out there. All of the cases that I am mentioning in today's video are of people of different backgrounds, of different ages, and all of these people deserve their cases to be heard. So with all that being said, let's get right into it. The first individual we are talking about is Yolanda Jean Maull. Yolanda was born in the year 1952. She was a 30-year-old black woman who went missing in Birmingham, Alabama on May 26, 1982. She was around 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighed about 115 to 125 pounds. She had a birthmark on her right arm and had her ears pierced. The morning of her disappearance, she was set to show up in court to a divorce hearing. She had spoken to her attorney around 9 a.m. that morning, but never showed up to court and has never been seen or heard from again. Her car was later located in an abandoned car lot of a Captain D's seafood restaurant in the 1100 block of 3rd Avenue West. According to her daughter, Yolanda was last seen wearing beige pants and a red blouse. There is conflicting information surrounding this though, because according to the police report, it states that she was last seen wearing a red blouse, but a white skirt instead. If you have any information on Yolanda, you are urged to contact the Birmingham Police Headquarters at 205-254-1700. Hoover Jerome Morris. He was a black man born on January 23, 1973, and was 18 years old at the time of his disappearance on November 22, 1991, in Heflin, Alabama. He was quite tall, standing at 6 feet 1 inches, and weighed about 220 pounds. On the afternoon he went missing, he went outside to speak to a woman in a red sports car. This woman was someone he knew, but was also someone his mother told him to be weary of. Jerome came back inside after speaking to the woman and told his mother that the woman had been sent by his brother to pick him up. He was going to go with the woman and be back later. He was never seen or heard from again, and the brother said that he had never sent anyone to pick Jerome up. The next day, Jerome's family went to file a police report. Police spoke to this woman that picked Jerome up, but she insisted she had nothing to do with his disappearance, and police had no evidence to tie her to any crime. The photo on the right is an age progression of him to about 43 years old. If you have any information about Jerome's disappearance, you are urged to contact the Heflin Police Department at 256-463-2291. Felicia Cochran. She was a 26-year-old black woman born on August 10, 1965. She has been missing since June 11th of 1992 and went missing in Pell City, Alabama. She stood at about 5 feet 3 inches tall and weighed about 135 pounds. She had pierced ears and may have been wearing glasses at the time of her disappearance. She had been estranged from her husband at the time and was a mother of 3. She was last seen leaving her mother's home on June 11th at around 6:00 p.m. in her 1987 gray Nissan Sentra and was said to be heading to Birmingham, Alabama. Her burned up shell of a car was found less than 12 hours after her disappearance on a very isolated road in Talladega County. Talladega County is about a half an hour drive from her home in Pell City. Her body has never been located and she has never been seen or heard from again. If you have any information about Felicia's disappearance, you are urged to contact the Pell City Police Department at 205-884-3334. Jondalar Washington was a 17-year-old Native American boy. He was born on November 6, 1980, and has been missing since May 19th of 1998. When it comes to his height, there are conflicting reports. One states that he was exactly 5 feet tall, and another states that he was 5 feet 7 inches tall. He weighed about 110 pounds and had black hair and brown eyes. Jondalar was last seen leaving his parents' home in St. Michael in Alaska. On him, he had a 20-gauge Winchester pump-action shotgun, a blue tarp, and a camouflage tarp. It is said that that day in school, he told a classmate of his that after school let out, that he was going to be making a 60-mile hike to Unalakleet. Other than it being a whopping 60-mile hike, it would have been up the coast across ice that connected the island to the mainland. Months went by, and when the ice melted, the search continued, but they never located Jondalar's remains. If you have any information about Jondalar's disappearance, you are urged to call the Nome, Alaska State Troopers at 907-443-2441 or at 800-443-2835. Kimberly Nicole Arrington. Kimberly was born on May 23, 1982. She was a 16-year-old girl that stood at 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighed about 110 pounds. Her ears were pierced and she had a scar on her abdomen. She went missing in Montgomery, Alabama on October 30th, 1998. The details surrounding her disappearance are very few. She was last seen leaving her home to head to a CVS pharmacy the day before Halloween of that year and has never been seen or heard from again. Her younger sister claims that Kimberly had asked her if she wanted to walk to the CVS, and she declined the offer and stayed home instead. There were no surveillance cameras outside the CVS, so it is unknown if she ever made it to the CVS or not. There is a theory that someone may have asked her for directions along the way and forced her into their vehicle. Based on the police report, she was last seen wearing a gray Bugle Boy shirt with a collar, light blue Levi jeans, and white Reebok sneakers with a gray trim. She would have been wearing an emerald ring with 2 diamonds. She occasionally went by the names Kim or Kiwi. If you have any information about the disappearance of Kimberly, you are urged to contact the Montgomery Police Department at 334-241-2651. Myron Timell Traylor. He was born on October 1st, 1974 and went missing on July 27th, 1988, making him 13 years old at the time. He stood at about 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighed about 106 to 116 pounds. He had a half-inch scar on the right side of his head. In Phoenix, Arizona, he and his mother were walking to his grandmother's home when along the way, Myron and his mother got separated when he decided to make a stop to get a drink at a fast food restaurant. This fast food restaurant was located in the area of 16th Street and Southern. He has never been seen or heard from again and is classified as an endangered missing because the chances are he was most likely kidnapped. He was last seen wearing a red and white striped shirt with white shorts that had blue print on them. The photo on the right is an age progression to about 41 years old. If you have any information about the disappearance of Myron, you are urged to contact the Phoenix Police Department at 602-262-6151. Marjorie Maldonado. She was born on August 12, 1955. She was a Native American woman who has been missing since September 16, 1993 in Fairbanks, Alaska. She had black hair and brown eyes. She stood at about 5 feet 7 inches tall and weighed about 130 pounds. She wore prescription glasses, but it is unknown if she was wearing them at the time of her disappearance. She was last seen during the early morning of September 16th. Her 1974 camel-colored Ford van was found behind an abandoned bar in Fairbanks not long after she went missing. She was last seen wearing black leggings, a black turtleneck shirt, and a cream-colored crochet sweater. Foul play is suspected. If you have any information about the disappearance of Marjorie, you are urged to contact the Alaska State Troopers at 907-269-5018 or 907-452-2114. Johnnie Joe Herrara. He was a Hispanic Latino 20-year-old man born on February 17, 1951. He has been missing since August 27th of 1971 in Oxnard, California. He stood at 5 feet 6 inches tall and weighed about 137 pounds. He has a few distinct characteristics about him, including a scar on the bridge of his nose, a chipped front right tooth, and a distinct burn mark on one of his elbows. Johnny, mostly known as John, was last seen at a bachelor party in Oxnard, but he never returned home. John actually had a twin brother named Joe, and Joe was the person who reported John missing not long after. One person came forward and said that they saw John at a McDonald's restaurant nearby, but this sighting was never confirmed to actually be John or not. Everyone at the bachelor party was questioned and completely cleared. According to his twin brother, they were extremely close, and John would have never just up and left town. John has never been seen or heard from again, and his 1969 light blue Volkswagen Beetle has never been located. John was officially declared deceased in the year 1978, 7 years after his disappearance, and his case is the oldest unsolved missing persons case for the Oxnard Police Department. If you have any information, though, surrounding his disappearance, you can contact that department at 805-385-7600. Next, we have an extremely heartbreaking one, and that is the disappearance of Shemaeah Nicole Gunnel. Shemaeah was born on November 6, 1983, and was 5 years old at the time of her disappearance on February 10, 1989 in Yuma, Arizona. She was last seen at her mother's home. Her mother's name was Valerie, and she was murdered in the family's apartment, and her 2 daughters, Shemaeah and Lucretia, were taken. They were declared missing. Lucretia was 9 months old, and her remains were found floating in an irrigation canal 6 days later in Mexico. Valerie's live-in boyfriend, named Alvy Copeland Kyles, was convicted of all 3 murders and sentenced to death. Prosecutors believe that Alvy took Valerie's life because she would not give him money to feed his addiction. After taking her life, it is assumed that he took the children when they wouldn't stop screaming, took their lives, and disposed of them elsewhere. His conviction was overturned on the grounds that he had an inadequate defense, but he was later convicted of 3 counts of murder and 2 counts of child abuse in the year 2000. Shemaeah has been declared deceased, but her remains have never been located. The photo on the right is an age progression to 21 years old. If you have any information about Shemaeah's disappearance, you are urged to contact the Yuma Police Department at 928-373-4700. Clark Toshiro Handa, a 3-year-old boy of Asian background. He was born on December 5, 1980, and went missing during the evening of August 22, 1984 in Fairfield, California. The next day, his family realized he had been abducted from his bedroom sometime during the night before, and a ransom note was left behind. Clark's parents did everything the ransom note said, but the person responsible never had any more contact with the family. never returning to collect the money. His photo was put on milk cartons with the hopes that promising leads would come in, but all the leads turned out to be false ones. In 2011, the Fairfield Police Department, with help from the FBI, reopened the case, and in April of 2016, they charged a man named Michael Federang for the kidnapping for ransom and murder of the little boy. Michael says that he took Clark's body and buried him somewhere on the outskirts of Vacaville with the help of a woman and a man. He says that the woman is now deceased and he doesn't know the whereabouts of the man. Michael claims he doesn't know the exact location in which he buried Clark's body, but Clark's family hopes to one day be able to bury their boy the respectful way he deserves. Clark was the youngest of 9 children and the only one taken from the home. He was sleeping next to his older sister, who was 7 at the time he was taken. His case remains open until the remains are located. The photo on the right is an age progression to 33 years old. If anyone has any information about Clark's case, you are urged to contact the Fairfield Police Department at 707-428-7300. Lisa Dianne Jameson, a 23-year-old Black woman who was born on September 26, 1968. She went missing on November 4, 1991 in Chandler, Arizona. She was about 5 feet 6 inches tall and weighed about 122 pounds. She was last seen wearing a pink shirt, light blue jeans, and white shoes with a silver rope necklace and silver herringbone necklace. She had each ear pierced 4 times. Lisa was last seen on November 4th at around 7:15 in the morning after her overnight shift at an electronics business she was working at. She was dropped off by a coworker around McQueen Road and Chandler Boulevard and has never been seen again. She left behind all of her belongings and no money has ever been used from her bank account. About a month after she vanished, her 1989 red Pontiac Le Mans was found outside of an adult bookstore in Phoenix, Arizona. Nothing much was found inside the vehicle though, no blood or evidence of foul play. At the time of her disappearance, she was married and had a 2-year-old son. Her mother was interviewed and said that Lisa may have been pregnant at the time of her disappearance and made it known that she was nervous to tell her husband because they were not planning on having any more children at that time. Her family believes her husband may have been responsible for her disappearance, but he has never been charged and later moved to Bolivia in 1993. Her son was adopted by her parents, and they all continue to hold hope that her remains will someday be located and she can have a proper burial. If you have any information about the disappearance of Lisa, you are urged to contact the Gilbert Police Department at 480-508-6500. The next one is a little bit different. He could possibly be a runaway that may have been eventually met with foul play along the way. That is the case of Phillip Alfred Montoya. Phillip was born on October 10, 1959. He was of Hispanic background and was 14 years old at the time of his disappearance on March 29, 1974. He had been living with his mother and stepfather at the time and went off to school just like any other day. During that day at school at San Jose High School, he asked to borrow $2 from a friend and told some friends that he was going to run away from home after school let out. He said he needed the $2 to ride the Bay Area Rapid Transit to the end of the train line. The thing though was that the local train station was about 4 miles from school and Phillip set off on foot, leaving his 10-speed bike chained up to a pole outside of the school. His older brother said that he had no idea why Phillip would want to run away. He had a good at-home life and tons of friends. He didn't take any clothes or belongings with him, just what he had with him at school that day and the $2 that he borrowed from his friend. Months later, though, some friends of Phillip's older brother claimed to have seen Phillip at a gas station in Warm Springs, California. But they hadn't known he was a missing person at the time until they saw it later on in a newspaper. Authorities have no evidence of foul play and some suspect he may still be out there somewhere. If you have any information about Phillip's disappearance, you are urged to contact the Fremont Police Department at 510-790-6800. Jeannette Kamahele, a 20-year-old woman. She was born on February 10, 1952, and came to the United States from Japan. She was a student at Santa Rosa Junior College, living with a roommate in the 900 block of Sierra Avenue. On April 25, 1972, she decided to hitchhike and was last seen hitchhiking on the Kotadi on-ramp of Highway 101. A friend saw her from a distance and was going to pick her up, but a man stopped in front of them and picked her up before this friend could. The man was described as being somewhere in his 20s to 30s, a white male with an afro hairstyle, and was driving a faded brown Chevrolet pickup truck. Although he did not really fit this description, Ted Bundy was considered a suspect in her case, but was eventually cleared of any involvement. Police do not believe the infamous Zodiac killer was involved either, but many think that Jeannette may have been a victim of the person responsible for the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders, a set of murders in the area around the time of her disappearance. All of the 7 known victims' remains have been located. They were all women between the ages of 12 to 23 and were all known hitchhikers. Jeannette is the only one who has not been found. If you have any information about Jeannette's disappearance, you are urged to contact the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office at 707-565-2511. Peter J. Kemah was born on May 1st, 1991, and went missing at the age of 6 years old on September 11th, 1997. His tragic story started almost right after he was born, because shortly after his birth, he and his 2 older siblings were put into foster care after reports of child abuse. It is said that his parents were very abusive to all of their children. Despite this, in October of 1995, all of the children were put back into their biological parents' care. Peter was last seen with an adult female in Honolulu, Hawaii, and it wasn't until January of 1998 that his mother filed a missing persons report for the young boy. Peter's father ended up telling authorities that he gave the child away to a longtime friend in August of 1997 during a trip. This person he said that he gave Peter to could never be located, and many believe she never even existed. Peter's older sister told a psychologist in 1998 that she saw her brother's deceased body in a box in her parents' closet, and then later in the truck bed of her father's vehicle, and that he took the box to Honolulu to bury it somewhere. His remains have never been located, and he is presumed deceased. As for the parents, they were indicted for their son's presumed death in April of 2016. If you have any information about the disappearance of Peter, you are urged to contact the Hawaii County Police Department at 808-326-4646. The next case is one that I've known about for a few years now. It's one that I always wished had more information online about it, and there was just no one for me to contact to talk to and get more information about this case to do a video on. And it recently had an update just last year in this case, and it was an update that I wasn't familiar with until I started researching for this video. 12-year-old Ivy Mattery, 9-year-old Violet Mattery, and their 7-year-old half-sister Yolanda Williams lived with their mother in Compton, California. On July 20th, 1977, a 3-year-old little boy named Sir Christopher Clay Marshall was also spending the night at their home. I'm guessing their mother was babysitting. At around 4:30 in the morning, the home burned to the ground, and the mother's remains were found at the front door, but all of the children were gone. There was a trail of blood from the house to an alley where the person bleeding most likely got in a vehicle and drove off. It is said that the children were seen at a Denny's with the mother's estranged husband and Yolanda's father, a man named James Williams. They were seen at this Denny's at 5:30 a.m., only an hour after the house burned down. Later that day, he was picked up by a friend in Riverdale, California, but the children were not with him. He was questioned by authorities and released, but then arrested after the autopsy of the mother was done and it was discovered she had been strangled to death, and he had a cut on his hand, even though he claimed the cut came from trying to fix his car. He was tried for the murders of his wife and is now deceased. The reason for his wife leaving him was due to him being charged with child molestation in an attack against Ivy in 1976. A young female's remains were located in 2014 and finally identified as Ivy Mattery's only last year in 2019. As for the other 3 children, they have never been located, and James Williams never came forward with the location for where they may be. Only time will tell if others will be found or not. If you have any information about their disappearance, you are urged to contact the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department at 800-698-8255. Angel Antonio Torres, a 21-year-old Hispanic male who was born in 1978 and went missing on May 21st, 1999. He stood at about 5 feet 8 inches tall and weighed about 160 pounds. He was last seen in a downtown beach area of Maine around 2 p.m., where he was visiting a friend in Biddeford. He had taken a bus from Massachusetts, where he attended college, and was said to be looking for a ride to Conway, New Hampshire from Biddeford. 3 days later, on the 24th, his girlfriend called authorities when he didn't show up to work, and a missing persons report was filed. His parents were contacted, and they said that the last time they spoke to him was on the 19th when he called to wish them a happy anniversary. Angel was a business student who had just finished his junior year of college and was excited for his future. He is not thought to be a runaway, and foul play is suspected. If you have any information about Angel's disappearance, you are urged to contact the Maine State Police at 207-973-3700. The case of Alexandria Christine Selesky, another sad story of a child whose life was taken too soon. Alexandria was of Asian background and was born on November 26, 1983, and was 5 years old when she vanished. She was last seen playing in the front yard of her home in Radcliffe, Kentucky, and 3 days later a missing persons report was filed. Alexandria had been living with her father and stepmother, who her older stepsister in court claimed had abused the child. Her stepsister stated that she saw Alexandria's body in a plastic bag on the 23rd of October, the day she went missing. According to the stepsister, Alexandria was alive at the time she was in the bag, and while in the bag, the stepmother took her anger out on another stepchild in the home, and the next morning the stepmother went to check on Alexandria and she was deceased. She had been left in the plastic bag and was said to have been buried by her father the next morning. Alexandria's abusive, murderous father and stepmother were both sentenced to life in prison without the chance of parole, but Alexandria's remains have never been located. Chances are that the only people who would know where her remains really are is her father and stepmother. But the number to call regarding this case is 270-351-4470. DeAngelo McNeil, yet again another child let down by someone meant to protect him. He was only 2 years old, born on June 1st, 1994, and was last seen at his home in Houston, Texas on April 17th, 1997. From January 1995 to December 1995, the boy and his brother were in the state's custody while his mother was in prison for theft charges. That December, he and his brother were returned to their mother, but were still in the state's legal custody. By March of 1997, investigators were becoming suspicious of abusive behavior going on in the home when DeAngelo had a bruise under his right eye. When they questioned his mother, she said he had fallen. In April, his mother took him out of daycare with no reasoning. Child Protective Services went to the home to get the boy, and when they arrived, he was nowhere to be found. The mother said he was in the father's care, but she could not give any number or address for the father. He was later located in the Dominican Republic without the child. His mother was charged with injury to a child and was given 75 years in prison. It is suspected she took the life of her child, but there has never been any solid evidence to back that up. For now, she sits in prison, hopefully for the rest of her days. If you have any information about the case of DeAngelo, you are urged to contact the Harris County's Attorney's Office at 713-394-4448. The last case we are discussing in today's video is the disappearance of Walcie Rae Downing, whose family still continues the search for her in today's time, so many years later. She was a beautiful Native American woman born on July 18, 1924. She went missing from Gallup, New Mexico on December 14, 1956. She was 32 years old at the time and had 5 children. From my research, Walcie was going through a very difficult time in her life. She was definitely trying to get her life back on track, and she wasn't then living with her children. They were staying with family members. It is said that there may have been someone trying to prevent her from seeing her children again, and that person may be responsible for her disappearance. She loved her children dearly, and they never believed for a second that she would have just left them behind. Her family believes that foul play is involved with her disappearance. She was last seen wearing a white blouse, blue jeans, and an engagement ring from a broken relationship. She was driving a 1952 or 1954 cream or faded tan Ford car. Her family believes that she may have been abducted or killed somewhere near the Malpais or Grants, New Mexico area. This case is the oldest one mentioned in today's video. The place to contact for Walcie's case is the Gallup Police Department at 505-863-9365. So those are all of the cases that I have for you all in today's video. If you would really like me to do a part 2 with a bunch of cases that don't have that much information online about them but deserve to be heard nonetheless, definitely let me know down below in the comments, or just simply like this video. The more likes I get on a video, the more I'm able to tell that you guys like that style of video and want me to do more in the future. Now, I know that everything in the world is crazy right now, and I mean, the world has always been quite crazy, but as of lately, it's been a lot, and I appreciate anyone taking any little bit of time out of their day to watch one of my videos. So thank you all, and thank you for the support, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.